Hey there, friends. I'm really glad that you're here listening to this with me because I've been stuck inside during this winter storm here down south here in Charlotte. And today I wanted to share some of the stuff that I was going to share over the past 2 Sundays, but I just wanted to have an informal kind of talk, just me and you right now, right? I wanted to talk about truth. Because I think that's something we need to talk about, but not like an abstract way that we're used to hearing it talked about. Not truth as a debate weapon, not truth as something other people are failing at. I want to talk about the quiet lies, the respectable lies, the lies that feel necessary just to get through the day. Because most of the harm in this world, in this life, doesn't begin with cruelty. It begins with accommodation. If you ever told myself, this is not my responsibility, or I'm not going to get involved, you're not alone. This isn't my responsibility. That sentence has kept a lot of good people comfortable and silent. You see, there's a dangerous misunderstanding about evil. We imagine it as obvious, dramatic, loud, easy to spot, but most of the time it's subtle, it's polite. And friends, it's even religious at times. One of the most powerful insights from psychology and theology is that evil depends on lies, especially the lies that we tell ourselves to protect our own self-image. For most of us, right? Most of us aren't psychopaths. We don't wake up wanting to hurt people. We wake up wanting desperately to believe that we're good. So we explain things away, we minimize, we say that's just how things are, or it's complicated. And sometimes the most dangerous lie is that simplest one. This isn't my responsibility. That lie doesn't feel cruel. Some of us have convinced ourselves that it feels mature. Or maybe you're into hipper ways of talking about that, and it's boundaried, it's realistic. But over time, it teaches us how to look away without feeling any guilt. And here's where things get harder and more honest. Sometimes lies don't just live in individuals. They live in systems, in churches, and traditions. For decades, many Christian communities confuse dominance with discipleship, aggression with faithfulness, and control with leadership. And here's the lie underneath it all. That power, or proximity to power, proves faith. That if you're strong enough, loud enough, successful enough, God must be on your side. Entire spiritual cultures were formed around that assumption. And once a lie becomes communal, telling the truth feels like a betrayal. Feels like you're betraying your community. If you've ever sensed something was wrong but couldn't name it, if your body knew before your theology did, that wasn't weakness, friend. That was wisdom. Go with me for a moment here. Let's name something ancient, right? Something really, really old. Empire always promises peace through domination. Rome did it. So many modern religious movements claim that order through exclusion is a way to peace. They tell us that safety comes from control, that righteousness looks like certainty, and that strength requires silence. But here's the thing. If you call yourself a Christian, if you're someone who's a disciple of Christ, a follower of Jesus, Jesus never partnered with empire's logic. Jesus spent his ministry exposing that logic. Telling the truth was his form of resistance. If you know the Jesus story, truth is costly. It destabilizes comfort. It dismantles false innocence. And that's why truth isn't just something we believe. It's something we practice. And if we don't, it becomes something that we avoid. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I stayed quiet because I didn't want to cause trouble, or I trusted leaders when my instincts were warning me that I shouldn't, or that I thought obedience meant endurance, just taking it over and over again, please hear this gently. You were not stupid. You were not weak. You were formed in a culture that normalized lying for the sake of belonging. And friends, this is the part that sucks. Truth-telling often begins as grief. Grief for what should have been. Grief for what you tolerated. Grief for what you lost. For so long I was taught that grief was this enemy towards faith. But grief is not the enemy of faith. It's a doorway into it. So here's an invitation for the week, right? I don't want you going out there to confront everyone, not to burn everything down. But maybe begin to notice. Look around and say, where have you learned to say this isn't my responsibility when your conscience quietly said otherwise, right? What are the things that you've let go that you knew you were supposed to do? Truth doesn't demand heroics. It asks for honesty. And honesty is holy. So I'm glad you're here with me, friends. I'm glad we're walking this together. And it's my hope that maybe as you explore those places where you have said it's not my responsibility, that you find some resources, right? Because each of us could engage more civically. We know that there's terrible, terrible things happening right now. People are being snatched from their homes, abused, murdered in the streets. And it's easy to say it's not our responsibility. It's easy to say, what can I do about it? But I want to tell you something, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I want to tell you that this past week, we've watched as people have called their representatives and changed their minds. Whether that was on funding ICE or getting rid of Kristi Noem or all of the things that we didn't think a Republican Congress would do. But because people said, you know what, it is my responsibility. And they called and they showed up and they wrote letters and they wrote emails and they got their friends to call, something happened. Something happened when we asked our politicians to tell the truth of what we want. So it's my hope that when you explore this idea of all the places you said, this isn't my responsibility, that maybe a part of that is you waking up to your responsibility to care for your neighbor right now, your immigrant neighbor who's suffering. If you want to find out more about how you can do stuff like that, you can go to fivecalls.org. It's a pretty rad place. It sets it up pretty easy for you. But I hope that this talk about the truth sparks something in us, because that's something that we need to get back to, is learning to tell the truth again, even the hard truths to ourselves. So friends, may your week be filled with truth. May you be blessed with seeing where your responsibility and holy purpose is. And may we get together very, very soon.